Welcome to our Mind the Moments Thursday morning gathering brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. And this is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them and to discuss as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe Palacino and am always happy to be here with Tara Healey, founder and director of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare's mindfulness program. Good morning, Tara.
Good morning, Suzanne, and good morning, everyone. Nice to be here and nice to see all of you joining.
Yes, it's very good to be here with you this morning. Today, Tara will start us off with a question, as always, and lead us in a guided practice, share some thoughts with us. And then after that, we'll have time for questions. So if you could open the bottom of, go into the bottom of your screen and open up the chat. And that box will have a drop-down menu, a blue drop-down menu that will allow you to see, if you click on everyone, you can see all the comments coming in as they come in. So happy to have you here this morning and curious about our question, how it lands with you.
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you were here last Thursday, but the question was related to what we value in ourselves. So what qualities or characteristics do we feel are strengths for us and that we bring those out into the world? And then we talked about even how that question lands within you. Like, does it provoke anything? Do what does it bring up physically, emotionally? So the question today is related, but it's really what qualities or characteristics do you value in other people? So kind of as you move through the day and sort of move through the world, what are some characteristics that you value, that you think are important? And, well, let's just leave it at that. And actually, Suzanne, how about if we start with you, as you kind of move through your day and world and encounter people, and we're encountering less and less, but it could be you could encounter somebody online or, but what is something that others possess that you value, that you feel, that just feels supportive and uplifting?
Yeah, so I think that the thing that lands with me the most about this question is someone who is authentic and shares vulnerability.
Yeah.
That really works with me. So how about you?
Yeah, nice. And of course there are many things, right? So I said just one, but of course, if you have a couple that you want to say, that's totally, totally fine. Yeah, I would say for me, just like a sense of kindness, and when you can pick up another person's just their kind of generosity of spirit, their kind way, that goes far, especially if you're in a vulnerable place. To have another person with you who is kind and welcoming is something that I really value. And well, let's see what's coming in.
And someone that just naturally is that way. You can just tell that that's their natural.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, lots of interesting truthfulness, compassion and humor, listening. Yeah, and I agree, you can easily tell that.
Yes.
Patience.
Yes, you totally can.
Emotional intelligence. Really great. Empathy and authenticity. I love all of these. Fearlessness, I love that.
Yeah. I know these are great.
Love for life and presence. Sincerity. Yeah,
I know. It's really, I love this. And reading through these too, like like being with someone who's joyful, where that's almost their default, is also just really pleasant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I echo what people are saying about listening, and
Yeah.
the sympathy and empathy of somebody, and their words, rather than trying to solve, but just
Yeah.
being kind of sharing that pain in some way is so
Yes. Yeah. 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 That's huge. I mean, like, listening and like the capacity to hold somebody else's suffering and just actually let it be, but hold it with them, is such an incredible quality and such a gift. And I think sometimes we don't get that sense because it's so hard to hold one's own emotions, and then you're being asked in a way to hold another's. And so, but all of these qualities and characteristics that we talked about last week and we're talking about this week are cultivated through this practice. You know, these are qualities, skills, and characteristics that we are cultivating when we practice. It is in many ways a deep practice of self-understanding, because we will see our habits and patterns very clearly when we remove all the stuff we're distracted by in life and we sit with ourselves in this practice of mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. You know, we're making room for all of it to show up. And we want to see those parts of ourselves that maybe we're less pleased with, and to bring a lens of kindness and compassion and listening, all of these qualities that we're talking about, to these visitors, internal visitors, and to know that, you know, this practice that we're doing together every week, every day, is challenging and difficult because of seeing our own habits and patterns that are difficult. And yeah, so
it's
I see
interesting,
that.
Tara, because just one other thing, on Wednesday we spoke about this, yesterday, is you know, mindfulness of emotions, and how we work with difficult emotions, and how important it is that we can be with them at times, even in our meditation,
Yeah.
and just really allowing them
Yeah.
to be there, and also being compassionate to ourselves. So
Yeah. I think that the word allowance is such a good one, Suzanne. You know, it's sort of the recognition when something, where you're aware that there is an emotion or a body sensation. There's always a corresponding body sensation. And there's, you know, often I think there is a natural tendency to resist anything painful, emotionally or physical. It's a really innate sort of primal protective quality. And then when we can see that, oh, the resistance, we can allow for that resistance, see that resistance, and soften to the degree that we are able to, and be with what is underlying that, which could be fear, or who knows, it doesn't really matter.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think in the spirit of the cultivation of all these qualities, let's go ahead and practice. And I'll start us off with a body scan, which is the way that I always typically start at home anyway. And we'll leave enough time for Q&A and at the end as well. So either seated or standing, whatever feels like it's going to be a posture that's most supportive to you this morning. Either way, either one is fine. And just take 2 deep breaths as a way to settle any surface tension, and just as a way to kind of settle in. I am guessing many of you have had active mornings already. So 2 deep breaths make the exhalation double the length of the inhalation. And after that second exhalation, just let the body resume its normal rhythm. And know that however you're breathing is fine. You don't have to change or alter your breath in any way. The body knows how to breathe. It'll get a rhythm going. And see if you can surrender your weight into the support of the surface that you're on and into the support of the earth below, which can hold you. And as you drop into this space, notice the spine so that you're holding yourself in a way that is upright and engaged, straight but not stiff. Allow the body to soften around the spine that's upright and engaged. Just kind of whole body awareness. Notice how things are from your activity this morning. Perhaps you're aware of the heartbeat or points of contact with the body and the surface. That could be the soles of the feet or the back of the body. And any kind of pulsing or vibration, you may be aware of temperature. And just for a moment, allowing your awareness to expand from body to sound in the room that you're in, or perhaps outside of the room. Just making a soft mental note, hearing. And always remember, we're not labeling what's making the sound or investigating that in any way, just simply receiving sound and allowing that to serve as an anchor for the wandering mind. And allowing sound to remain in the background, begin to bring the awareness back inward to the whole body. And narrow that focus from whole body to sensations present when you breathe. And just begin to notice where the sense of breath is most pronounced in your body. Could be almost anywhere. So as you inhale and exhale, where in the body do you notice breath sensation, the physical sensation of breathing? And as always, if breath isn't helpful this morning, you could use sound. If you have a near constant sound in your background, you could also use the points of contact with the back of the body, or your hands resting on your thighs, or a table in front of you, that point of contact. So the mind will wander a whole bunch. That's natural. We're not trying to stop it. We're just simply seeing that when a thought has slipped in unnoticed and we notice it, that we can make a soft mental note, thinking, and it's fine to be more specific. So if you're planning or worrying, you can label that. Bring attention to the whole body, soften to the degree that you can, and return to your anchor. So I'm going to be silent for the next several minutes. Noticing where the mind is. Soft mental note, thinking or planning. Soften your body and return to whatever you're using as an anchor. Just continuing to do that over and over again, as the mind will wander quite a bit. It's natural. And each time we're labeling, softening, and returning. And as we bring this meditation to a close, may we be peaceful and at ease. May our heart be soft and open. May we be safe and protected, and our bodies healthy and strong. And may the merit of our practice be for the benefit of all beings everywhere. And take your time, but as you feel ready, if your eyes were closed, you can open. And I think sometimes it's helpful to just reorient by looking around the room, maybe taking a moment to stretch. Yeah. Welcome back.
Teresa has shared this quote that I think is great. A patient that folks that we're with, if they have a patient curiosity that wants to know what it's really like to be you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what Teresa's that care that you give another human being is, it's such a gift to not immediately bring a story back to yourself. Like, it's fine to share similar stories, and it actually can be really useful. It's just that it's typically done too early in the interaction and too often. That's the only problem with it. Yeah. So how was the practice for folks? Did you feel like it was long? I had more space than I normally do, and just notice where the mind is. I don't know if people notice that or not, or any observations you had about your own practice this morning. Please feel free to share. And Suzanne, you too, like anything that you noticed about practice this morning. And of course, questions or sharing a podcast or a book or a show that you saw that is relevant, that you would.
Yeah, there's a few folks that felt connected to the silence, and I appreciate that as well. There are some days that I want more guidance, and there's some days that I want more silence. It just depends on the day.
Yeah.
So I think it worked for me this morning as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tricky thing, I think, sometimes with figuring out the amount of silence. I feel similarly, like there's some days where I just want complete silence, but I think sometimes too, like the guidance can almost feel like an annoyance, but then if it does, it's something to work with. It like gives you good grist for the mill. Like, what's that annoyance about? And yeah, either way, it's extra busy, focused on a dull lake. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is nice to give that little that note that there might be more silence.
Yes.
Because sometimes people, depending on how your meditation is going, they're expecting, like it's easy sometimes to expect something, and
right, like leaning into like when
mm-hmm. Yeah. And impatient thoughts, controlling attention, and they won. Sometimes the battle is it's not worth it, and we just go with where our mind goes, right?
Yeah. And I think that's really useful, is that every practice is going to be a little different. It's a different day. There's different emotions. There's different things going on. And the beauty of it really is like losing the expectation that it's going to be better the more you practice, and whatever better actually means, that it's just going to be what it is. And you're learning about the nature of the mind, and not just your mind, but everybody's mind. The content will be different. The stories are different, but think that was one of the most useful things early on in my practice, is that I was like, oh, this is what everybody's mind does, not just mine. Everyone's mind does this. This is the nature of the mind. And this is what we're learning in this practice, is this is the nature of the mind. And it really, I mean, I think by nature I'm a compassionate person, but it grew that compassion for me, because I feel like the compassion extends for what we're all dealing with these minds that plan and evaluate and judge and remember and, serve us so well, in so many ways. But I love that the practice is really, we're training the mind, and we're training for the cultivation of all of these qualities we have discussed today and last week. I mean, we're developing these capacities.
Yeah. And I've always thought that our emotions are there our mind and our thoughts sometimes are there to protect us. And that sometimes we can be hard on them, but sometimes they're there for a reason. So, but they're not always true, as we talked about.
Right. Yeah. And it's a good question to ask, is this true? But I love what Maribel is saying too about every time you notice that a thought has slipped in and you're aware, like that's a pivotal moment. There will always be a corresponding body contraction, always. So what happens is the thought slips in and the body is subtly contracting somewhere. So that's why I always say, just as soon as you notice, thinking, soften, and then return to whatever you're using to help anchor and stabilize attention, knowing it's going to go off again. But it's like lifting against the resistance of weights, doing those repetitions. We're doing mental push-ups, this is what we're doing. The mind will go off and we just escort it back, and it'll go off again and we escort it back. And that's how we cultivate this kind of steadiness.
Yeah. Really, really helpful. And also just knowing that biologically that is changing the biology of the brain, and it's changing how the synapses are connecting.
Right, that's right. Yes.
So anytime a thought comes up, it actually is helpful to build that mindfulness muscle, because we're rewiring the brain.
Yeah. And using the practice to see what you incline toward. That's why it's really helpful. Like, are you inclining toward worry? What are you inclining? Because whatever we incline the mind toward, that's what we train.
So such good feedback and questions and comments. So really good stuff this morning. Thank you everyone for your comments, and yes, we did.
Happy Valentine's Day.
So I'm glad that resonated. I tend to wear my colors, and so does Tara.
And it wasn't even a plan.
No.
It really was not a plan. It just sort of turned out that way.
Yeah, the necklace. Yep, that was my plan.
And there are hearts in here in this.
all fun things. So thank you for everyone joining and for all the interaction. Great fun, and hope to see you next week. And as your week progresses into the weekend, I hope you enjoy the weekend. So wishing you well, and see you again soon. Thanks everyone.
Okay.